Resident Evil is back with a vengeance, eschewing the fixed camera angles of vintage Resident Evil and the third-person over-the-shoulder shooter perspective of recent installments in favour of more immersive and consequently more terrifying first-person viewpoint. Resident Evil VII Biohazard represents a pretty big shift for the franchise and a bold step back into survival horror, where it all began. Trumpeted as a return to the series' roots by Capcom, you might think the Resident Evil 7 is anything but. You're dead wrong. The spirit of classic Resident Evil is alive and well in Resident Evil 7, clearly evident in the puzzles, tight resource management, and all-pervading creeping sense of dread. Resident Evil 7 is a scary game, boasting more than simple jump scares. The atmosphere is dead on.
Where do you think you're going?
Initially, Resident Evil can seem a little too relentless. Your first tentative steps into the decrepit, filth-encrusted Baker household, an intense game of cat and mouse that doesn't let up for a good hour or so.
Aha!
As you progress, you'll soon meet the Moulded too, a new breed of monster that lurch from around corners, squeeze through walls and slither out of slimy crevices. They're toothy, nasty-looking creatures who will happily gnaw your face off given half a chance. And so it makes sense that you'd want to assemble an arsenal with which to defend yourself in this situation. So as ever, knives and pistols give way to shotguns and other formidable hardware you can use to keep your hideous infected enemies at bay. But combat is just a small part of Resident Evil 7, with numerous puzzles to figure out, items to uncover, antique coins to collect that you can exchange for useful boosts, and all manner of dark, foreboding environments with dark, gloomy corners to explore. Resident Evil 7 doesn't pull any punches either, never shying away from buckets of blood and guts, some of which can be pretty stomach-churning. Play this using PlayStation VR and it may warp your fragile little mind. Not really, of course, but be aware that it's strong stuff, and I'll say it again, intense. It's probably not all that advisable to have extended sessions playing the game using virtual reality. It might freak you out.
Fuck!
Playing as Ethan Winters, Resident Evil 7 sees you on a mission to rescue your missing wife Mia, upon discovering a desperate message that tells Ethan to stay away. Stay away!
Stay away!
Ignoring that advice altogether, Ethan enters the Baker house in the Louisiana Bayou, only to find that things aren't what they seem. In fact, things are pretty damn messed up, but undeterred, Ethan pushes on, even when the local authorities fail to do their job properly.
Alright, let me tell you this. You don't exactly seem like you playing with a full deck yourself, alright?
Are you kidding me?
Having to contend with the charming Jack, Marguerite and Lucas Baker, and this mysterious wheelchair-bound granny who has a habit of popping up in the damnedest of places, Ethan gets more than he bargained for. Videotapes offer further insights into the horrific events that have unfolded in the Baker house in the past, while each member of the Baker family also has their own games to play, and they're all quite intense. Have we mentioned that Resident Evil 7 is a bit intense yet? Yeah, it's pretty intense. Intensity aside, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard delivers on almost all fronts, with some decent puzzles and uniquely Resident Evil moments that should satisfy all but the most demanding of die-hard fans. Resident Evil 7 feels like a natural evolution for the series, boasting a smattering of surprises, one or two really cool narrative twists, moments of claustrophobia, jump scares and plenty of tension. After the wall-to-wall action of Resident Evil 6 and Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 7 seems like a real return to form. Representing a new beginning for Resident Evil 7 is a sensational survival horror game that really does feel like a return to the roots, even if it's one delivered from a first-person perspective. Forget all of that. Resident Evil 7 is wonderfully immersive and pretty effing terrifying to boot. Bring spare underpants. You're gonna need them.